Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Today I'm talking about the power of your voice. Let me first of all say I cannot be on the web because Facebook has blocked me off from accessing the web. So it can only be on my phone. So if I don't see your comments while I'm on, I will respond back when I get off air. I'm still battling with getting my old account back since the hack, and I've not been able to really do much on my Facebook because I have a lot of restrictions on it. However, if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, today I'm talking about the power of your voice. I will also share this on to IG later on, but it's understanding your voice to be able to understand who you are, to be able to really break down the voices in your head, the societal voice, the generational voice, the opinions of others, and to be able to really know you. Because when you know you, you own the power of your voice, and you're not going to lose yourself in the process. You're going to be able to stand in your own power without living in your own shadow. Why do we need to understand the power of our voice? It's the first breakthrough to really beginning the journey of self-healing. It's discovering who you are. It's giving yourself that commitment to be able to own every moment of your journey, to be able to say, you know what, if I understand my voice, then I can silence every other voice that will lead me away from who I am and allow me to live in my shadow. One of the reasons why we don't understand our voices is because of the fear of what other people will say or do. Hi, Kemi. Thanks so much for joining from the UK. What people will say or do, and also the fear of abandonment, rejection, and neglect from other people, seeking validation, believing in other people's perspective than owning the perspective of your own journey. One of the things that we've been given that is one of the powerful tools in our own journey is our voices. And if you look at so many relationships that are unhealthy, people lose their voice in the process of not being able to even speak out after the toxic relationship ends. I've been there myself. I had my voice silenced for so many times, including when I was raped at the age of 17, and I never really spoke about it until I was 41. And that was about when I started to really receive my breakthrough and own my own voice. And without really owning your voice, you will never truly become who you were meant to be in life's journey. You will never really know you. You will never really understand you. You will never really be able to fulfill your life's purpose because every other voice will silence your true voice. Every other voice will bury your true self. Every other voice would allow you to live in your shadow if you're not owning it. Part of owning our voice is every experience that we go through. What is each experience bringing you? What knowledge are you gaining about silencing your voice, about owning your voice, about standing in your own power and to be able to speak up and speak for yourself? Let me begin by saying how our voices get lost. As children, our voices were silenced by our parents because that's what they were also conditioned to do. To silence your voice so that you don't have the power to speak up for yourself. And I'm not saying this in a disrespectful manner. I'm saying in the sense that you're able to not become conditioned and have so many limited beliefs that are passed on that now lead to the generational trauma that many of us suffer from. It's being able to own that voice that you were given and to be able to ask questions, inquisitive questions that help you move forward. So many of us were silenced as children because our parents were also silenced by their parents, and that's how we created all the generational trauma that we are carrying on in our lives that we may not be consciously aware of. And as long as our voices were silenced as children, we move on into the teenage years where our voices were further silenced by the friends that were also in unhealthy places, that because we didn't know ourselves yet, we did not have that, self-esteem or self-confidence in place. We succumbed to other people's voices and we became the people pleasers in our life's journey. And it goes on into adulthood. The same patterns are repeated, the same cycles are repeated, and everything just keeps going round in circles without you really coming to own your own voice until you get to where you're being broken down. And when you get to being broken down, all you hear back in your head are the voices in your head. The voices that created the generational trauma, the societal voices that put the pressure on you to be who you're not meant to be, and the friendship voices that also have their opinions about you, but without being self-confident yet, you succumb to everything and you become the people pleaser for life. Today, it's about looking at where you lost your voice and to be able to understand how losing your voice also takes you off your life's course. Being that you will not only lose your voice, you will lose your mind. Your emotional and mental health will be down. And you will begin to create all these limited beliefs that shift your perspective into thinking there's something wrong with you when there's absolutely nothing wrong with you. What is really wrong is that you can't recognize your own voice because you don't know who you are yet. And because you don't know who you are yet, every other voice tells you who you are without you discovering who you are. And to be able to begin to hear your voice requires courage. Courage to stand up for yourself, courage to own your truth, courage to become committed to your journey, courage to isolate yourself for the period where you're healing so that you can dig deep into the root causes and uproot the weeds in your own garden, so that when you do so, you can now begin to understand who you are and understand your own voice. And part of that process is to be able to also discern the voices that are in your head and know where they're coming from. Your thought process, the convoluted mindset, the different perspectives that have limited you into that tunnel vision that doesn't make you see beyond that tunnel so that you don't even get to the light at the end of the tunnel. And it's what makes the ego really become awakened, because the voices in our heads actually make us shift to where we can speak and project whatever is going on in our lives on other people without recognizing we're just listening to the voices in our head to get accepted, to seek validation, to be liked by other people. Reality is you will not be liked by everybody when you know your true self and when you stand in your own voice. The reality is that when you begin to own your own voice, not everyone will even look at you. Reality is that when you begin to own your own voice, the conflicts that you encounter in life's journey becomes minimal. And your peace will not be traded for everything, because now you recognize your voice and you're able to set healthy boundaries. And healthy boundaries doesn't even start from the external alone. It starts from the internal. What are you allowing? What are you accepting? What are you, tolerating every single day that is shifting your voice away from who you are? And it's to be able to sit down and look at yourself and say, do I really understand me? Do I know myself? Or am I being conditioned daily into this programming that is not real, but it's a fad that I'm carrying on with? It's to be able to shed all the weight that you're carrying along, because dead leaves cannot breathe life into you. That's a quote from one of my books. And you have to understand that when you begin to recognize your voice, your journey begins to become lighter. Your life begins to become easier. You recognize that some of the illusions that you've created in your thought process were just based on the fact that you did not know who you are. And now that you're on the journey to discovering yourself, you're ready to own every truth of that part of your journey and have your own voice. Be who is representing you and not every other voice that is in your head. First step to recognizing your own voice is to take a pause from everything that you're doing. Literally everything. Set aside time to begin to journal what you have experienced and what you're currently experiencing. And ask yourself, part of the stories that you've told yourself in your head, what part of those stories are true? And what part of those stories were created out of illusions and fantasies, or the lies that you even tell yourself? I've been there before. Told myself so many lies when I did not recognize myself. Part of journaling is also look at, where are you people pleasing? Where don't you have boundaries? Where don't you recognize your own values, or where are you losing your value, compromising your core values that are non-negotiable? It's looking at how are you recognizing your own worth? Do you even know how worthy you are? It's also looking at how ways that you're abusing your body, because your body is a temple. And as long as you're giving that time to yourself to take a pause and really sit down and evaluate those things that I said earlier, you begin to really either own the truth or run away from the truth. Those are two things that you will do. Either you own the truth or you run away from the truth. And when you run away from the truth, you're actually running away from yourself, and you can't have your own voice in that moment. When you run to where you're owning the truth, when you run towards the truth that will liberate you, it will feel painful. Because you see, when we are living outside of ourselves, we don't recognize the pain that we're creating for ourselves. It will be painful, but you have to commit to the journey of owning your voice and finding your voice. And part of that is really journaling down everything that you've experienced from day one. You can't keep trace. You're going to have to go through every process. It is like peeling back the onion layer. And as long as you're willing to peel back, trust me, your eyes may be watery, but those tears are also releasing the toxins from your own body. And to be able to see. The first thing I said was to take a pause and journal. The second thing is to commit. Without committing to yourself, nobody else can commit to you. You will realize that people will string you along for so long and then leave you behind, and the only person who faces the consequences of all the pain later on is you. I've been there, done that. And you have to come home to you. And part of coming home to you, to be able to own your voice, is to commit to yourself. And it's daily commitment and evaluation. That's the third thing. Evaluation and introspecting every single day as you commit to yourself. What is it that took me off the course today that allowed me to lose my voice? What is it that I need to do to continue to own my voice? I can't tell you all of that until you commit to yourself and are willing to get support to get there through coaching. But it begins with you doing the work. Without you doing the work, I cannot do the work for you. I can only do the work in my life. I can support other people to do the work when they're committed to themselves. It begins with the commitment. How do I commit to evaluating my life every single day? How do I commit to hearing my voice every single day? How do I commit to understanding who I am every single day? How do I sit down and reevaluate how I failed the commitment? Because failure is really a stepping stone to your greatness. It's just a label that we put on it. But it's an awakening to the things that you don't know about yourself yet. And it's an opportunity for you to reconnect with who you are and begin to go. And the fourth thing you have to do is now begin to evaluate the association. Evaluate the association. The friends, the family members, the acquaintances. How are they helping you own your voice? Can they speak life to you? Can they speak truth to you? Or are they just carrying you along because they are also lost and cannot recognize their own voices? You have to decide who you keep in your life. No one can make that decision for you, and that's all part of owning your voice. The fifth thing and the last thing is to begin to take the steps to make a change. Because without taking steps to make a change every single day, nothing will change. And that begins by you setting goals. What goal are you going to set every single day to discover yourself? What goal are you going to set every single day to own your voice? What goal are you going to set every single day to evaluate your truth? What goal are you going to set every single day to evaluate your circle? What goal are you going to set every single day to step out in faith and let your fears become buried? Because fears are only illusions. They're not real. They're only going to hold you back when you give your ego power to take that that fear and create voices in your head. And as you begin to do these 5 things, one of the things you will realize is not everybody that you've been holding on to is worth holding on to. Let me say that part again. Not everybody that you've been holding on to is worth holding on to. Especially when they're making you lose your voice, then find it. When they're making you lose yourself, then find yourself. You see, the societal, the generational, the trauma that we also carry from other people that we associate ourselves with, including the childhood trauma that we carry that we are not even consciously aware of, because all of us have been through it. If you've gone from generation to generation, you've carried not only emotional and mental trauma from those generations, you've also carried from the society, and you've also carried from yourself. And it's time to begin to really look at all those things and begin to uncover who you are and uncover your voice and find your own voice, because what holds the power in your life is the power to be able to own your voice and to be able to speak your truth through your voice. And when you find the power of your voice, you are going to stand on the level of evolving to become the best version of yourself without anybody stopping you. Part of owning the power of a voice is to be able to set the healthy boundaries that help you recognize red flags in friendships, in relationships, in whatever way. And to be able to say, you know what? I'm committing to myself no matter what. I know who I am and I know whose I am. And I'm not settling for anything outside of that. But as long as you continue to give your voice to the societal norm, the generational trauma, you will never truly be able to find yourself. You will never be able to find your purpose. You will never be able to live to be who you were created to become. You will just be living in your shadow and dimming your own light. Remember, no one can give you anything except you're choosing it to accept it. No one can make you lose your voice except you're choosing to give it away unconsciously. No one can say, tolerate these things without you losing your voice to tolerate it. No one can say, accept these things except you lose your voice to accept it. And that's how you lose your own power. And then begin to lose your own mind and acquire emotional pain and trauma that you may not be consciously aware of. So it's time to put a stop to all of that, and it's time to stand in your power and stand in your voice, because your voice was given to you, nobody else. And to be able to stand in your voice is to be able to begin to take the courage to discover yourself and own every part of your journey, every experience that you've been through that is now leading you to become who you were truly created to be, and learning the lessons from all of them. And then reevaluating your life on a daily basis by setting goals and accomplishing the goals. And at the end of your accomplishment, you celebrate your stance in your own power and in your own voice. Remember, no one can make you lose your voice without you giving it away. You may blame other people, you may project on other people, but you have to come to own the truth of the moment of you realizing how much you've lost your own voice, how much you've dimmed your own light, how much you've lost your own power, and now begin to regain it, to stand in it, and to walk in your life's journey and purpose while you're still living and breathing. Remember, you are the CEO of your life, and no one can take that position from you except you choose to give it away unconsciously. But it's time to come back home to yourself and awaken yourself to own that truth and own your voice, so that you can find you, you can know you can love you, you can be you. And then when you become who you were truly created to be, your light can shine to others through your voice, and they can see and find themselves and also understand their life's purpose. You see, life is short, but without finding your voice, you may not even be able to live the life that you were born to be and become. You may just be living in your shadow, but when the time is up, you may just have existed and not really lived. So it's time to change that story today, to find your voice, to know who you are, to experience life in the truthful and meaningful way, so that you can walk purposefully and live truthfully to yourself, and then become the light that others see and shed the light on their own darkness as they go along the journey. Remember, life is not guaranteed, or not even the next nanosecond is guaranteed to anybody. So while you still have this moment, find your voice, standing your power, and receive the grace and courage that you need to become who you were truly created to be and become while you're still breathing and living. That's all I have for today. Until next time, I'll talk to you all soon. Have a great week ahead. God bless. Bye-bye.